We are talking about spooky science. We're talking about spiders, and I'm wearing my spider earrings for it. We're talking about the Joro spider, which is labeled as invasive, and we need everyone's help to track it and make sure we know where it is in the world. So, without further ado, let me drop my screen share and pass it over to Rebecca. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I graduated from the University of Georgia with a master's in crop and soil sciences, a focus on weed science a few years ago, uh, 2009. And but the focus is on all taxa, invasive and pest species. So I've learned a lot more than just plants. And so I joined with the Center for Invasive Species in 2011. I've been here working with the EdMaps project since then. And EdMaps is all about documenting invasive pest and biocontrol species across primarily the US and Canada, but we can work with other countries as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here too. It's great to have two of you too. I love when we have multiple guests so we can have a bigger conversation. Debbie, can you introduce yourself a bit?
Yes, and I'm the new kid on the block here. So I am the communications person here for the center and joined last year, end of August. So my job here is just to get the word out of all the cool things that are going on and why it's important to have our volunteers and our citizen scientists on the ground getting that important data back to us so that we know where things are, how people need to respond, and what reaction needs to take place.
Excellent. Are both of you spider lovers?
I'm fond of them. There's
Oh
one in
my
there.
gosh. Oh, so cool. Wait, is that a Joro spider or is that a
Yeah.
different kind?
It is.
It's- they're
When they
big.
get preserved in alcohol, they lose a lot of their colors. But
Oh,
so that's the
oh wow.
female,
That's a
and
good one.
Those are
then
so big.
there's a male right next to it. So
Oh my gosh.
there's the male right
Yeah.
there, and then that's the female.
Ah, so
Big size
tiny.
difference. Big size
Yeah,
difference.
big time. That's
I
amazing.
just
Debbie,
like
I
to,
saw you kind of go, ooh.
well, I just kind of like to go downstairs. It's nice that they're down there and I don't, boo. I no, their sister and dad are not big fans of spiders, but since I came on about Joro Spider season last year, that was the first thing that I got to do was our annual spotting contest. And so there is a little bit of thrill in, ooh, you really did find a good one, or that's a great photo, or yes, send in a report. So it's interesting.
It's interesting. That's good. Anything that we
I'm
don't
not
necessarily
one of
love
those
immediately.
hands. I think is that your hand, Rebecca, on the photo?
No, I
No.
didn't. That's not me.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, let me
okay.
bring that back up so we can see that hand again because it is a little terrifying. Look at that thing. Yeah. I just actually while we're on this topic, it's not your hand, but the orange color, is that from the web?
Yeah, their web, and there are other spiders that make a golden web.
I did not know that. If anyone
Yep.
else knew that, that's amazing. But wow, I did not know that. Learn something new every day, and I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to the many things I will learn today.
Yep.
And I see one of our friends in the chat just meant or just said I call them arachnids so I get less creeped out. That's smart. It's smart. I mean, I know people who really love all things spiders and creepy crawlies and whatnot, and I wish I could be more like them. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the Joro watch. So I don't know anything much about the spider other than what it looks like, or at least the general idea of what it looks like. So when you're talking through the purpose of this, I mentioned at the top and in the title, it's about the invasive Joro spider. So can we go through a little bit of a background of where did the Joro spider come from, and should we really be worried? Is it really scary that it's here, or what should we? How should our perspective be about the spider? And
So
whoever, oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so it was found around kind of the counties between Atlanta and Athens, Georgia in 2014. That it was in three counties suggests it was here for much longer than just 2014. We're just not sure. That's just when it was found. Um, and they are from Eastern Asia, so kind of Eastern China, Japan, those kinds of countries. And it's likely it came over in cargo, but we don't know for sure. And yeah, so it's native to those areas, but we do have a very closely related species. It's in the same genus, so it's kind of like a brother or sister species to a degree. And they do look similar in their shape, but they have different color patterns, and they're, once you're practiced, they're pretty easy to tell apart. And we know that, so in the US, there is a legal definition for invasive, and that is it's not native to the ecosystem in question. So checks that box because it's from an entirely different side of the world. It's self-sustaining population. It's obviously doing that. And then it's causing some sort of harm. And that's what one of the things that researchers are studying. So we know it's not, generally speaking, a human health harm. We, at this point, it's not considered an economic harm. So it's not destroying crops or things like that. So then what the researchers are looking at is it an environmental harm? And so, yes, it came over in 2014. It's been here for 10 years, but it takes a while for research to be done. Once they know, like, oh, it's more than just in these 3 counties, it's actively spreading, then they can start really doing research.
Right. So in that environmental harm conversation, since we found it in 3 counties in 2014, do we have enough data to know the exact types of environmental harms we're seeing?
And that's what the research are studying. So they're looking
Okay, so
at
we're still, yeah.
what habitats is it showing up in? Is it taking over resources that our native species would be normally using? Just those, when you're talking about environmental harm, it can be a little bit more, it can take a little bit longer to understand what the impacts are, because when you say economic harm, it's like crop loss, yield loss. That's a very easy thing to see in a few years. With something like environmental harm, that can take a lot longer with something like a spider compared to like the chestnut blight, where it rapidly took out almost an entire species in just a few decades. That was a very quick correlation there. Like, the trees are all dying. Interesting. But with something like this, like with this spider, it's trying to figure out, is it causing population declines in prey species? Is it causing population decline in other species that uses the same habitats and resources? So there's anecdotal evidence where people say, in my backyard, I used to see these other spiders, and now I don't. I only see Joro spiders. Like, that's something that the researchers can look at. Like, if we have that data before of where did those native spiders exist? What were those native spiders eating? So there's a lot of background information that needs to be found to compare it to the pre and the post Joro spider timeframes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that definitely helps me understand this a whole bunch. So in terms of calling it the invasive Joro spider, is it a almost invasive? Like, are we using that as a precursor of like we think it's going to be established as invasive?
We know
Or
it meets 2 of the 3 criteria at this point.
Okay.
It's that
Gotcha.
3rd criteria of environmental harm that it's suspected, but there just needs to be more research.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
And
there are
that's
plenty of pictures where people, they're taking a picture of like the sky between trees, and it's like spotted with spiders.
Oh boy. And Debbie, sorry, were you going to mention something about the
well,
criteria?
and that's why the spotting and the reporting is so valuable. So that when, when researchers come upon a particular topic and they want to study it, then you can go to the map that shows that, this county had more reports than that county. And that could be, the difference in a successful, research effort versus non-successful. I mean, not that you want them there, but if you knew that the population was steady, you could get those 1, 2, 3 years of research in that would make an impact down the road. And that's why knowing where they are, it seems so trivial, is actually the foundation of the research.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you by chance know who the first report was? Like, how did this actually like get started? Was
Yeah.
it a scientist of some sort who found one, or
It
was
was
it a
I
random
believe it
report?
was a student, an entomology or ecology student with the University of Georgia saw that, hey, there's this interesting spider here, and informed, I believe, Rick Hobeck, but Rick Hobeck was involved. He's an arthropod specialist with the University of Georgia, and he was involved, and he and I believe the student were involved in the paper that said, "Hey, this has been found in the U.S." And so
Gotcha.
that paper was published, I believe, in very early 2015.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. And so since they were already in 3 counties, we have a feeling they've been around for a minute before then too, being able to spread
Yeah,
to 3 different places. So
yeah,
it's good that we started.
we just don't know when it came in.
So just to close the book on non-native versus invasive. Michaela in our chat just asked the question of making sure that it's referred to as invasive for those 2 criteria. Can you remind us the 2 criteria that they do meet so far? One
Yeah.
that they have not is environmental damage, but we don't know that yet, but we're trying to figure that out. What are
Yeah.
the other 2 criteria?
So that they're non-native to the ecosystem in question.
Native.
So they're non-native to the entirety of the U.S. But there are situations where things are native to like one part of the country and not native to the other. We do see that in the U.S. But in this case, this spider is not native to the entirety of our continent. And then
Right, yeah.
the other criteria is that it's a self-sustaining population. And this is the same criteria for plants, insects, animals, diseases, all of
Mhm.
that. It's all the same criteria of it meeting those 3 factors. Now, there is no national list. So there is a federal definition, but there's not necessarily a federal list of, okay, that checked these 3 boxes, it goes on the list now. A lot of states have their own lists, or even
Mhm.
smaller. Some counties, some cities, regions, they might have their own. This is our invasive species list.
Gotcha. And actually, if anyone is curious to learn more about that too, there is an event we ran last, gosh, I want to say it was February of this year. Yeah, this year. Feels already like 2025. February of this year, we talked about invasive versus non-native and native plants, especially. And so if you want to learn more about that terminology and learning about resources, you can go onto our YouTube and we can find that link for you too and add it to the follow-up email too. So in essence, if you want to learn more about that too, we have some resources. We also had Angie in the chat mention wolf spiders in her area. I'm wondering if anyone has seen any of my state. Like, there's been uh, a loss of wolf spiders, and so now I think Angie's like, oh gosh, are we seeing Joro spiders take over that area? But I guess we'll find out. Maybe, yeah, definitely ask her around, Angie. I'm excited. Any thought on if wolf spiders are disappearing because of this? Has that been found?
I don't know. Well, I know Joro spiders are not in Iowa at this point.
Okay.
Um, they're they were found and established first in Georgia. They've been found in Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. Um, there have been individual reports in some other states, and then there's likely a small sustaining population around Baltimore as well, in
Oh
Maryland.
wow.
So since 2022, there have been steady reports in a localized area near Baltimore. So that to me indicates that there's a sustaining small population that arrived there.
Yeah, that makes me think that along the path there must be some that are hanging out in the intermediate areas, but I'm not sure if that's common or if it's just like they hop on a truck and end up like skipping a state, right?
It
Is
can
that okay? I'm
be
getting a nod.
yeah, it can be either way,
Know
because
that.
that's how they kind of made their way over, is either a gravid female or an egg mass. And they do lay their egg masses on they lay their egg masses on flat surfaces, so like tree bark, trailers,
Yeah.
flat. They tend to
Lots of
do
them.
that. I saw a really good picture in iNaturalist that someone
Mm.
had taken the other day, and it was a female on top of an egg mass on the bark of a tree.
Oh, wow.
So they'll leaves, flat leaves, things like that. That's where they
Too many
tend to
options.
anchor their egg masses. And so it can be, it's like similar to spotted lanternfly in that way, or spongy moth in that way. They can lay their egg masses on something flat. That flat thing moves and can be moved somewhere else. So it's possible that um, someone involved in transportation moved an egg mass up
Mhm.
there, or someone who just vacations in the South and then went back with one
Right.
and didn't know what it had happened at all.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
wondering, and if anyone was curious too, I'm looking at the reports by county
Hmm.
right now, but there's a couple of different maps on here, and
Yeah,
I'll show this again in a while because we have references on how to get started
yeah.
in the project as well. So just for reference of what we're talking about, them skipping areas was a little
Mhm.
scary to me. So I'm glad we talked about that. Now, just to quickly get a one of my questions out of the way that's a little silly and unrelated, but I am curious, do they bite?
Well, all spiders bite.
Sure.
It's how they eat. Um,
Oh,
but
that's a fair
Joro
point. Bite humans?
Joro spiders are considered not medically significant.
Okay,
So
that's good
yeah, so
for
they're
us.
not gonna, it's not gonna be like a brown widow or a black widow or a brown recluse.
Yeah.
They don't want to bite, for one thing. And then uh they're really gonna be more interested in getting away from the thing that is 10,000 times their size. Um
well, and even researchers, our local one here with Clemson, has determined, that they're relatively shy.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out seeking mischief. They just want to hang about and do their things. Now, obviously, if you go in looking for a fight, it's a
Trying to beat up the spider.
it's going to protect itself, and that's
Yeah.
what it, but like Rebecca said, there's no medical significance there. So they're really just hanging about, so you can either embrace the free Halloween decorations, or
Yes.
you know manage them in whatever way.
That's amazing that you said that because I was actually thinking about that. My childhood home back in the day was one of those houses that spiders love to put up their webs around. And unfortunately, I don't know why, but like right before Halloween, they would all disappear. I swear we had Halloweens where I was like, we're ready. And then they would just disappear within a couple of days before Halloween. It was kind of a bummer. But
Yeah,
yes, free
well, and
decorations.
and well, to go back, how did whatever that population, how did it get to Maryland? I mean, as our citizen science community, does their due diligence and respects the work that they're doing. There are those things where you're going to use a boot brush station. You don't want to move wood for firewood. You don't want to, bring boat debris. You're going to clean, drain, dry. You're going to brush your boots. You're going to wipe your bike tires. You're going to be respective of the scientific field that citizen science is. And so a part of that is cleaning up when you move from one place to another.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, since becoming citizen scientist oriented and in this industry, I've become a lot more cognizant of like, if I'm going to go a hike in a different state, I'm going to like brush my boots off aggressively before hopping on the plane, just in
Right.
case I'm bringing
We've got a
anything
bit of
over.
accountability and responsibility there. I mean, you're taking the
Yeah.
time to make these reports, so let's just finish the
Hmm.
process and don't take it with you.
Yeah. Which, speaking of reports, I'm going to switch us over to the topic of how this project actually works. But I'm glad we covered the safety issue that I was thinking of as an elephant in the room of like, this is safe to report them and get that close to them. So that's really glad to hear at the start. So we want to know like what makes the most sense in terms of how to participate. And since we know it's a little bit localized, or so far the reporting has been in specific areas, but you never know. I feel like anywhere in the country, you can probably still go out and search for them and see if anything is popping up or something like it. So regardless of where you live in in the United States, or if you're out of the country, then maybe this will be reminiscent of something else you see out there. We do want to know what makes the most sense for participating. And so I'm going to go ahead and shift or share my screen so that you can see the one of our pictures, and I'll send it over to one of our guests to explain what we're looking at here. But it looks like to me that you wouldn't be able to tell what this is. So if you're going to go out and report, is this a good picture?
It shows a silhouette, so it shows kind of what the overall body shape is, but there are native species it could be confused for.
Yeah. Is that another spider over there or a bug?
It's probably just debris in the web.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Which you can't see the web very well in this right now.
Yeah, no,
But
not too well.
this is natural habitat. I mean, high up in the trees. So a lot of reporters like, how am I supposed to get a photo?
Yeah.
I mean, it's way up there.
It is
Yeah.
because they can pretty much spin a web anywhere. You will find them kind of lower to the ground sometimes, but it's not uncommon for them to be in power lines and high up in trees. So this is a common type of photo that we will see, but it does make it harder on the person identifying it who wasn't there to be able to say with certainty. You can say with probability, like, it's probably this based on the shape of the body and, other things, but I can't see colors. I can't see patterns. I can't see anything that would be the nail in the coffin, so to speak, on if this is or is not.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it a lot more challenging to identify these species. So if we're going to identify them, we have a couple examples that are a lot more helpful, a lot more clear.
So the photo on the left is the belly side or the ventral side of the spider, of the Joro spider, and the photo on the right is the dorsal side or the back side of the spider. And so the one on the right, that's an adult female, that's the big one, and then the spider that's kind of up by its leg, that's a male. So again, a very large difference in size there, but the adult female is going to be the one that's most easily identified. And so it's got a yellow body with bluish bands on the abdomen, and then the cephalothorax, which is the part that holds the head and some of the other organs. That's, you can't see it very well there because it's in shadow, but that's a silvery white. And then the legs, 90+% of the time, the legs are black banded with yellow. Occasionally, you will see all black legs. It's uncommon, but they do show up that way. And then the ventral side, the belly side, which is on the left, it's black and yellow with kind of a red smear towards the side with the spinnerets, the part of the spider that spins out web.
Okay, that's called a spinneret.
Yeah, that's where they spin out their web.
Huh. I've never heard that word before. I'm locking that away in my brain. That's amazing.
There's some trivia.
They are very
you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, trivia.
They're so colorful.
I know. It's kind of a bummer that they're not what we want to see.
Yeah.
But they are pretty. So if you find them, they're kind of like a red flag of like, I'm really colorful. Look at me to see if I'm a Joro spider. So if that helps anyone, I'm certain that
they're not the
me.
only yellow spiders. They're not the only spiders with red on them. So it's taking all of those pieces together and saying, okay, it's got this, and this, rather than one piece or another.
Right. Yeah. Since they are self-sustaining as populations in these areas, is it pretty common to see a male with the female, or is it?
Yeah,
is it
males
rare?
don't really spin
helpful?
their own webs.
Oh,
males
okay,
don't really.
Yeah.
I think that they can. So you've probably heard of the term ballooning, where it was in the news of giant spiders flying through the air, which is varying degrees of inaccurate. But a lot of spiders, when they're just hatched or shortly after, they'll let out a single bit of thread and it catches on the wind and it takes them a small distance. It's essentially like, I'm moving out now, Mom. And so what often happens is that the females will build the webs and the males will go, that's free rent right there. And they hang out in the web and they just kind of hang out and wait for the female to become receptive to their advances.
Man, it's a very bizarre cultural move.
So
Spiders are very interesting for their various purposes. Is it pretty so since the male is so much smaller than the female, is that also a kind of a defining factor of this species that'll help us identify? I'm not sure how common it
not
is to have
not
that.
particularly. I mean, it's
Oh, okay.
very
It's
common for there to be a size difference in spiders. It's not every time.
yeah.
But in this, I mean, it's the other spider in this genus that's native to the US. It's the exact same way. A very small male with a larger female.
Gotcha. Okay. So not very helpful, but also something to note is possible to see.
Now, there are other spiders called kleptoparasitic spiders that live in other spiders' webs,
Mm,
and
mhm.
their name, if you were introduced into Latin and Greek roots in high school like I was, um, that it kind of tells you what they are: klepto, stealing, parasitic.
Yeah.
They parasitize the webs of other spiders, and they eat the food that makes its way into the webs. So not every small spider you see in a Joro spider web is going to necessarily be a male.
Ooh,
There's
man, I'm
another
really
little bit
getting
of
on my
trivia for you:
yeah,
kleptoparasitic
seriously.
spiders.
I mean,
And I
that kind of,
do
yeah, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh no, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's a totally different look at, is that freeloading or recycling, reusing, repurposing? I mean, what is that? Survival,
It's a survival strategy.
survival.
It's
Yes.
an
But
efficient survival strategy.
and seeing it in a web of something that's invasive, I'm not sure I feel too bad about it being parasitic. It sounds like it might be an okay thing
Yeah,
in that
it's
regard.
just, hey, you're catching more food than you could ever possibly eat. Of course, I'll just take some of that off your hands for you.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that the adult females are the easiest life stage and sex of this species to identify. Males are going to
Yeah.
be harder because they're small and brown, and the younger, especially as you get younger and younger, the spiders can start to be a little bit more difficult to separate out from other species.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have some tips on the looks. Let's solidify it with a solid picture of the looks now, because we also have situations that we've talked about briefly about lookalikes and different spiders that are similar enough where we want to make sure that we don't confuse them. So we're looking at two, which are both, or actually, I'm sorry, this one is a Joro spider, which even between these two looks different just simply because of the shape of the,
Yeah.
Mhm.
abdomen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I am curious. So they have variation even within the species, but definitely have lookalike. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll turn it to you.
The size of the abdomen is more usually corresponding to if it's about to have eggs. The bigger the
Oh,
abdomen, the more
okay.
mature the female, and the more likely it is to be ready to lay eggs.
Interesting. Okay.
That isn't like a always situation, but they tend to get bigger as they age.
Yeah, that does make
But yeah,
sense.
so this is again saying that the Joro spider legs
Legs.
black with yellow bands, although occasionally they are all black. The abdomen,
Hmm.
again, this is the dorsal side of the abdomen,
Hmm.
yellow with horizontal bands of bluish green. And then when you're comparing it to its sister species, the native species that I mentioned before, which is on the right here, the legs
Hmm.
of the Joro spider are smooth. The legs of the golden
Oh,
silk orb weaver, they have leg warmers. They've got
yeah.
fuzzy socks, basically, or fuzzy leg warmers
So
on
these,
three
yeah.
of their four pairs of
Mhm.
legs. So the first two and then the last fourth pair of legs have 1 to 2 leg warmers on each leg.
So if you carry
Fancy.
it close enough, you ask if it's got leg warmers or not.
But I will say that if you have a silhouette, sometimes you can see the leg warmers, and that can be helpful in identifying that it's not a Joro spider because it has the leg warmers block light. So you can see, there's leg warmers. So even though I can't see the colors, the shape of the legs aren't the same. Now the golden silk orb weaver, as you can see, the color is more orange with silver or white spots, and the legs, instead of being black with yellow bands or all black, they're yellow orange with brown bands. So you can see that the legs colors are different. They don't have they have the leg warmers, and the color of the abdomen is and the color pattern are different.
Yeah. Wow. I can't get over the leg warmers concept. I'm really glad that it's known as the leg
That'll
warmers.
stick in your head though. It's like, leg
Yeah,
warmers.
absolutely. I feel like I'm prepared to look at a bunch of silhouettes and be like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah. You're on your way.
Yeah, I'm on my
We'll bring
way.
you in for the 2025 Joro Spider spotting contest.
We'll make you a verifier.
Yeah, there you go.
I will prepare and become an expert verifier.
Okay.
I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. And again, these are
Amazing.
comparing the mature, the adult females.
Yes,
And that's
the two on the
an
screen.
important, yes, these two are both mature adult females.
Yeah. So when they're younger, there might be other variations to look out for.
Yeah.
Anything that looks
it gets harder when they get younger, because the younger they are, they don't have these patterns. They don't have these color patterns. The color patterns are quite different. They're similar colors, but the pattern is different.
This is for the golden silk or
Both.
beaver, or
Both of them.
Oh, both. Okay, gotcha.
A lot of spiders do have different patterns for the different. We'll call them instars or nymphs. So
sure, yeah.
So they're different from like butterflies, where you have, oh, this is a caterpillar stage, and then you have the butterfly.
Right.
These spiders, they hatch out as spiderlings, and they get bigger with each molt, and their color patterns can change with each molt slightly, until so that the actual hatched spiderlings look actually very different, the color pattern wise, from the adults. At least
it's an
for the
added
females.
challenge.
That's
Yeah,
why
it's an added.
that's why we had the spotting contest when we do, because it's very, very towards the end of the season, where most of what you'll be seeing are that are eye-catching are the adult females.
That is super good to know. So that was going to be my next question, of like the challenge of identifying them. Should we be taking pictures of spiders that may look kind of like them and it's just out of season, and
Yes.
so it's like a guess for the future? Yeah. Is that a common observation that you get?
Yeah, so we do get pictures and records submitted year round, because I took a picture in September, and I just learned that Joro spiders are a thing in March. I'm going to submit this picture I took 6, 8, 10 months ago, and that's perfectly fine, because not everybody, it's not everybody knows what every single species is out there, and so they don't know if it's important or not until they learn it's important or not.
Gosh, I'm afraid to ask how many species of spiders there are, because I'm
I
sure
will not
there's
be able
like
to answer
thousands.
that.
If anyone knows,
it's quite a lot. I know that much, because there are some genera that have hundreds of species within them, in and of itself, in a single genera.
I'm gonna guess 7,000. Just throwing that number out there if anyone wants to fact check me. Okay, so knowing all this and being a little bit not scared, they bite, but they won't bite you necessarily. Oh, thank you, Jim. I was waiting for that. I was like, someone's gonna look it up. I was way off.
200% high.
It's 3,400 in North America, though. So maybe my answer is closer to reality if it's across the globe. Maybe. Let's pretend.
I think you're low for across the globe.
That's probably a fair point.
There's 5 other continents that will have spiders.
Yeah, let's definitely call them arachnids.
Oh gosh, yeah, there's a lot. So beware of spiders, everyone. Just kidding. They're mostly fine. I let spiders live when I meet them. I'm just like, oh, you can live here. It's fine. You're not going to bite me. Unless they're a brown recluse, which in that case I would be screaming or running away. Anyhow, so if we're talking about how to volunteer, I'm going to go ahead and share a screen that's about how to actually get started. So if you're looking at this and saying like, I am ready, I've seen one of these, I'm ready to go ahead and try to find these spiders. So here are some general, very, very minimal instructions on how to be a part of this project. So because we're on a SciStarter Live episode, we're going to show you the SciStarter Live, or sorry, the SciStarter.org site for Joro Watch is a good place to start to get like a good idea of the whole project. And then from there, we'll pop you over to the project page. So if you click visit on that page, you'll end up on the jorospider.org website where you'll actually go through and you can see the distribution map. So I'll actually show you. So if my screen shared the same thing, let me double check. Yep, we're good. So on the main page, it looks like this, or the SciStarter page looks like this. And you'll go ahead and click visit over here, which will send you to this page and gives you a lot of information. So you can rely on this as well as this video to gather all your information you need, as well as some cool pictures of more Joro spiders. And as I had shown you all before, this is also where you can find the distribution maps that they have readily available for you to find what areas you should be looking. I will note, or my personal thought on this, and then I would love to hear Debbie and Rebecca's thoughts on this, since I know that they're technically not in my exact area or oh gosh, what's it called, zip code. I could note that traveling happens, and so if I see one, at least now I know where to go when I find one, if there is a appearance in the DC area where I am. So if you're not in this area, there's even one way out here already. So who knows? Maybe we'll find one in Montana at some point.
Yeah,
Well,
the one in
nice thing,
Oklahoma and the one in Virginia, West Virginia, those were individuals that were spotted by someone who either traveled from the Athens or Georgia area and saw it, or someone said, yeah, there are a lot of Georgia people at this training center or something like that. So those were definite, as much as one
hitchhike.
could be certain, hitchhikers.
Oh man, and we do know citizen science taught us that we have hitchhikers that are like ants that are hitchhiking cars in Taiwan, and so I feel it's happening a lot more, and we just don't know what species are being sent across the world. So
Well,
that is
that's
scary.
why one of the groups we work with, not as Joro Watch, but as the Center for Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health, we work with Customs and Border Patrol, specifically on helping them have resources for identifying things that are coming in on shipments and in
Hmm.
cargo and things like that. So Customs and Border Patrol are very, very important for helping to prevent things from coming into, insects, pests, diseases, things hitchhiking on things being brought over. So they do all these inspections to help prevent
Good.
things from coming over. They're not going to get 100%. Nobody's 100% perfect, but they're doing an extremely important job.
Absolutely. I didn't even realize that was in their repertoire. So that's awesome. Good job,
Well, and
Customs.
that's, yeah, and that just gives, an increasing amount of integrity to the EdMaps system.
Hmm.
Just that, in regard to Juro spiders, what you're looking for. These are verified by experts in their fields. These
Hmm.
maps are real time. So it's not like it's waiting to be updated. Like this was information that was current 2 years ago. This is information that's current today. And
Yeah.
we're looking, not just at Juro spider distribution, but across a numerous scope of species that are being monitored and identified and are available to report.
Right.
So, there's the cool thing is there's a lot of branching out because of this unique
Hmm.
platform.
Yeah, which actually I apologize. I didn't actually say that EdMaps part. So I did want to pause to actually talk about that since we didn't we didn't talk about it. When you're on the distribution map, that's great, but the report button at the top is where you'd actually report. But there's also a very handy dandy, so you could do this, but there's also a really handy dandy app that you can report through, which I believe is you could take pictures and upload it directly through
Oh
the
yeah,
app too, which would make it a lot
yeah,
easier, right?
Mhm.
So what is EdMaps? You want to give it a quick like elevator pitch?
yeah. It's stands for Early Detection and Distribution Mapping System. It's for the reporting of early detection species as well as pests and biocontrol agents that we know have been around for a long time, but maybe
Yeah.
moving into new areas. And the records that come in through the EdMaps website, through Joro Watch, through all these different projects that have worked with us, those are being put into a review queue for our verifiers to review the records that come in, verify the accuracy of the information provided, the photos, everything like that. And then if it's accurate, it will make its way out onto our maps, as well as are available for various downloads. So anybody can use the EdMaps data through the EdMaps query tool to do research analysis, to adjust and review their invasive species list for their state. It's used in many, 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 many ways.
Excellent. That's yeah, it's great to know that it's not just the, I mean, obviously you guys are not 100% on the Joro spider. And so seeing how vast the different species that we need to track and being able to see those other projects is
Yeah.
There
definitely
are
therapeutics
thousands. There are thousands of species that are being tracked.
Yeah. We care
I mean,
about
remember,
feral pigs and our,
Yeah.
for
It's across
national
all
forests
taxa.
and national
So,
parks and
yeah.
all taxa. That's kind of terrifying to think about. And if anyone was curious about what the web app version of the reporting tool looks like, this is the start of it. So you would go through and answer all the questions. Quick question for you two. Do you ask about like if they see certain types of organisms on the web, like as potential food supply? Someone asked in the
I
chat
think
about
that would
eating
be very
mosquitoes.
difficult to
Okay.
So earlier this year, or maybe late last year, okay, yeah, last year, 2023, we were included on a paper that was looking at the gut contents of the spiders, the fecal contents of the spiders, and the web contents of these spiders to identify what's being caught in the webs and what's being eaten. So that paper is out there.
Oh, awesome. Do we know any like highlights from it of like what types of things they're eating? And
So
you mentioned
I pulled it up, but I'd have to look at it again.
okay.
But they're not going down to species, but they can identify if it's beetles or if it's Lepidoptera, which would be moths and butterflies, things like
Mhm.
that. That so
Yeah.
and there are things that would get caught in a web that they might not eat just because that doesn't look good.
I just
Um,
not craving
so
it.
yeah,
If you
so
have the
that
link to that paper, if that's a available, publicly available paper, I'd love to have it in the follow-up email too. But you can drop it in the chat too, and
yeah,
I'll
there
make sure. Oh, awesome! Yes,
yeah. So
sweet. Thanks, Rebecca.
I believe that's open source, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay, all right, we will find out soon. So on the topic of the actual spotting contest, we're gonna,
Mhm.
for sake of time, we'll have to be a little brief on
Yeah,
it,
we'll be
but I'm
quick.
going to shift over there and let you talk a little
Yeah.
bit more about what that looks like.
So as I mentioned, we do this kind of late in the season for the Joro spiders, just to make sure that we're picking the easiest time of their life cycle to identify them. So the past few years, it's been in kind of early-ish October, and we are promoting it through various social media platforms. Advance.
Yeah. And can you actually, it might be in here too. I just wanted to add into the chat what your handles are so that people can follow
Oh
you
yeah,
too. I'm
Debbie
trying
can
to
help you
remember.
with that.
sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. I know there were
So
several, so
yeah, this is
Yeah.
just showing that some of our best posts. So we're when we announce the contest, this is all from Facebook. We're getting thousands of people who are being reached with this for each of these posts. Not everything does well, of course, it's just the whim of the algorithm. But we are reaching quite a lot of people, especially through Facebook, to be notified, hey, this is what a Joro spider is. There's a spotting contest happening, and anybody can participate. So you can.
excellent. And I love that
Next slide.
second one. Not all spiders wear leg warmers. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put that as my bio somewhere. Just FYI, everyone.
So, but this is just from 2024 so far. So on the right is the results of the spotting contest, which are considered pretty much set at this point. So we had that came in through EdMaps, through Joro Watch, something like that, 385 reports, which is lower than last year, but this also happened right after some hurricanes came through. So there was a lot of focus being appropriately, put onto the response for the hurricanes. But we did have 248 people who reported. There were 6 new counties that were added that had not had reports in previous years. The person,
Oh,
so we
wow.
also, as part of the contest, say who can report in the most number of counties, which Georgia has 159 counties. We're the second most county having a state in the US. So there's a lot of opportunity to just drive a half an hour and hit a new county. So someone reported across 7 counties, and then one person had 47 reports that were verified. That so they had the most number of verified reports. But through this year so far, we've had thousands of records come in across Joro Watch. We do pull in data from iNaturalist because EdMaps is an integrated database. We accept data from all different kinds of other databases, as well as recruiting data, primarily through people who want to contribute through EdMaps, or Joro Watch, or one of our other projects. But we've had some of these interesting things. We had so far 1,184 reporters, unique reporters, and almost all of them have only reported Joro spiders. That's the only thing they've reported. So
Oh, they're experts.
it's interesting to see. Some people only know us for one project or one species, and so in this case, most of the people who've reported Joro spider this year have only reported Joro spiders. They haven't reported spotted lanternfly or tree of heaven or feral hogs or anything like that. But we have added 32 new counties across the US, including 3 new states. So 3 states had their first reports this year.
That's been huge.
Yeah.
Oh, and distressing a little bit. I mean, it's good that we're finding them, I guess, but the fact that we are like adding new states to the mix is a little, I'm not sure how to feel about that. And now that you haven't seen the Joro spider for a couple of slides, is everyone ready to guess their best and test their knowledge of what the Joro spider looks like? Can you figure it out? Are you an expert? This is the test to make sure I can be a verifier, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
will count.
Yes. Yes. Everyone on here,
Perfect.
submit
All right,
your
so
verifier request.
yes. For those of you who are on Zoom with us, you will be able to respond in the chat or in the poll. If you're on Facebook, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll do our best to track those too. But first question, is this a Joro spider? Now that you know all the things, is it a Joro spider? Or is it a lookalike? Or is it a totally different spider? And pronunciation wise, is it Joro or Joro, or is it just accent based? Anyone know?
I've heard Joro, but I don't. It's a Japanese word, so I'm not 100% certain how it's supposed to be pronounced.
That's a good point.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's probably not
oftentimes it has the line over the first O, so you would say that like the letter O. So
Joro.
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 No, maybe it's over the last O.
It's over the
Joro.
second O, yeah.
It's over the second
It's
O.
over the second O.
Joro, yeah.
It's okay.
Ooh, okay, we have, oh, I think we're sharing our
Ooh.
answers already. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have a pretty common answer of no. Are we right?
Yeah.
I was
This
gonna
is
say no as
correct.
well.
This is a yellow garden spider. It's native to a huge swath of the US.
Amazing. All right, good job,
It's one
everyone
of the
who
most
said no, it's not.
commonly
Oh, sorry.
misidentified ones. That's fine. I was just gonna say it's one of the most common ones we get that isn't a Joro spider.
It's got those leg colors, you know. It's got the tricky leg colors.
Yep.
All right, is this a Joro spider? How do we feel? Oh, and this it'll be there we go. Awesome. Is this, I'll say it again while I flaunt my spider earrings that no one can see on Zoom. They're too small. They're giant earrings for me, but not so much. What would I think? Okay, I have my answer. Ooh, okay. Right now it's, oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Ooh, sorry. Roland and I are hitting the same buttons.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we're like almost split. I was gonna go with the no squad because I see leg warmers.
Yes.
Hmm.
This is that the native golden silk orb weaver. So again, it's in the same genus. It has a very similar body shape, but you see the leg warmers, as you mentioned, and the color patterns just aren't right.
Oh, yeah, I feel good. Who's feeling good? My friends who also said no. Good job. All right, how about this one? We're looking at oh, this is like hard because of where it's like pointing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
got
kind
green
of
on it.
it's twisted. It's on its side a little bit.
Yeah. Green, it's got orange, it's got yellow. Oh, the legs I can't tell exactly, but it is yeah, I can't tell what color the legs are. They look like green legs. to me, but I
Yeah.
can't
So yeah,
really tell. How do we feel about this one?
is
Okay.
Got a good group.
Oh, how do we do?
this
Was
is
it a no?
yeah, this is
Yeah.
no. So this, what we didn't show were some of the other life stages, but there is a life stage where the legs are more of a green or green black,
Oh.
and very young, very young. And so that life stage and this adult orchard weaver can sometimes be mistaken. And orchard weavers, so there's a number of species in that genus across
Mhm.
a lot of the eastern US that could be at certain life stages be confused with it. And so we have had reports where it's been confused.
Wow. Okay. I think this would have gotten me, I think, especially knowing that there's a life stage about with greenish legs. So if you got that one right, awesome job, because that would have tricked me. All right, last one on this one. How do we feel about this one?
Hmm.
Is this a Joro spider? Or is it a spider that's pretending to be a crab for Halloween? Sorry for giving away the answer, but I just think it looks like a crab.
Kind of looks like a questionable M&M.
Ooh, that's nasty. I like that answer though.
I mean, it's M&M size.
You're not wrong. Yeah, that looks like an M&M. That absolutely looks like an M&M.
I
Do
mean,
not pick this one up thinking it's an M&M.
I
I hope
mean,
it's like big so
they
you can
could
tell.
have manufacturing issues. I mean, we all have bad days.
Find this in your M&M container. Ooh. All right. Oh, we're sharing already. Okay, so it looks like the majority of us agree that it's a no. Are we right, I
Yep.
assume? Yeah.
This
Yay,
is
awesome.
this is a marbled orchard weaver. And I've seen reports that have come in that are marbled orchard weavers, but it has banded legs. It's got kind of a yellowy orange kind of abdomen. So some people who haven't seen a lot of pictures of Joro spider can confuse it.
Gotcha. And so I'm going to move on to the next slide here.
Yeah.
We had a couple questions in the chat, but I covered most of them. There's
Mhm.
one question I think I missed. If you all know if there's like I think it was the banana like import trade. If we thought that that might be where they were coming in. Do you have any idea if that was connected?
I have no idea. I know that some people who do genetics work are looking
Hmm.
at where more specifically than Eastern Asia this species might have come from.
Gotcha.
But it's
Yeah,
it's it's not known
unclear.
how it came over at this point.
Sure, yeah. And I apologize, we're a minute over time, so for anyone who had to leave right at the hour, I'm sorry to push us a little bit beyond, but I really wanted to play the rest of the trip or the guessing game of yes or no. Um, Thank you both so much for being with us today. I'm really excited that we got to talk about spiders right before Halloween. And also, I'm excited for the other projects that you have where we can probably have this conversation again in another time. So
Forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it. Any final words about those of us who are like, yes, we're ready to participate? Any words of wisdom other than maybe get ready for next October too, because you might not find them right now.
Yeah,
Or,
they're definitely in their tapering off period. They overwinter as eggs, but the eggs aren't super easy for the average person to ID, so that's why we don't really promote squishing eggs because they could be native spider eggs, and we want to
Yeah.
keep our native spiders. But yeah, so next year again, kind of early October, we'll be running the Joro Spider spotting contest again. And the people who win the Joro Spider spotting contest get these very nice stickers.
Oh, very cool.
Mhm.
Nice. Find me,
So,
report me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I just leave it with just go ahead and grab a free EdMaps account. Then you're ready.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I'll be signing up right after this.
Mhm.
And one quick question because I forgot to ask it, and now I'm wondering if I should include in the follow-up email. If we do find a Joro spider, is that something we're trying to remove the habitat? Like, should we kill them?
Yeah, it's been very person by person who's recommended
Okay.
what.
Mm,
There is a paper on managing Joro spiders in the landscape that recommends methods if you do want to remove them. So don't just pick a poison out of your kitchen cabinet and spray it. That's not a responsible thing to do.
right. Yeah.
But the kind of recommendation we go with is if it's a nuisance, if it's blocking your path, if it's, you know,
Bothering
you
you.
can take down the web, you can squish it. Um,
Yeah.
but don't go out of your way to try to get up in power lines to take it out.
Oh,
is
for
not
sure. Yes, within
responsible.
safety reason. Yeah,
Yes,
within
within safety
safety and
reasons.
responsible.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a ton of sense. And Debbie, thank you for adding that. I will make sure to include
Yeah.
that in the follow-up as well. Yeah, that is
Sure, sure.
awesome.
And that's a resource that's on the Juro Watch website. So under
Oh,
species
perfect. Yeah.
info, you're going to find a whole lot of information about these lookalikes, things that are similar that might fool you. And then just a nice, a conservative list of resources from reliable sources.
Excellent. Sweet. I'm looking forward to looking at the rest of it then. All right. So lastly, just before I let you all go, and if you've already gone, that's okay. But just the last comment of if you're looking forward to future SciStarter Live events, we have two coming up in November. For November 12th, we'll be talking about wildlife corridors. So if you're on the pathway of all the things wildlife and transportation of wildlife, that is a good one to come to. And we'll also be talking about the Leave No Trash Challenge, which is a totally different topic, but we'll be talking about it in November 19th with the Leave No Trace team. So look forward to that for your future SciStarter Live episodes. Thank you all for joining us. I will go ahead and stop our recording.